Well, welcome everyone to the SPJ Student Open House. My name is Katina Perrin, and I am the Student Relations Committee Chair of the Deadline Club, which is the New York City chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. While people kind of start rolling in, if people can put in the chat what school they go to, that would be great to see. I know we have Baruch here. But it would be great to see where everyone else is from too. So go ahead and type that in the chat. That would be great. Our goal today is really to help you all understand why it would benefit you to explain to you what the Society of Professional Journalists is, how to start a chapter, and how that can really help you in your professional journalism career. If you don't know a lot about SPJ, but you may have heard about the Journalist Code of Ethics. That's also known as the SPJ Code of Ethics. So it's the longest serving organization and association for journalists. So throughout the years, there's been a lot of focus and attention on helping student journalists in college, in undergrad, and in grad school really grow their profession and really help them get the networks that you need to get a career and an internship and really kind of develop in the field. So we have a small presentation for you, then we'll do breakout rooms and answer questions. But before we start, first I want to introduce Chris Vaccaro, who is our regional coordinator based out of Hofstra, and he is going to kind of walk us through kind of the details. How long have you run the chapter there at Hofstra?
At Hofstra, at least 6 years, I think it's been. And then I've been on the board of the Press Club of Long Island for 12. And I was the president for 4 years of that time when we won the National Chapter of the Year, might I add. So very involved with SPJ for like 12 or 13 years at almost every level at this point. So.
Well, he's a pro in helping student chapters grow and thrive and really making sure that the students get the most out of it. So we're excited that he can join us today. But I do want to hear, I want to show you a video. We have a surprise drop-in guest from a student member talking about her experiences with the Deadline Club and SPJ. So I'm going to go ahead and show, it's a 2-minute video. I'm going to go ahead and show that now, hopefully. Oh, I'm actually, let's see, it's having trouble showing the video. Or hearing the audio. I'm going to play it. Let me know if you can, yeah.
You see a white screen. We actually don't see your video.
Yeah, you don't see it. Okay. I may have to give you the link, Chris, and then you can play it from there. Does that work?
Yeah, do that. And I can see if I could share it.
Okay. Yeah, somehow this has me to restart settings. I got a new computer and haven't done audio before on it. So we have Lehman, we have Harvard, we have Baruch. This is a great list here. Where are you, Chris? There you are.
Hi.
Oh, I found it. I have it from the email that you sent earlier too.
And NYU.
You guys see this?
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, perfect. Here we go. Don't screenshot that.
My name is Janelle Repka. I'm a journalist from Seattle, Washington, and I am currently a student at Columbia Journalism School in the Science Journalism program. I am here to talk to you about the Deadline Club of the Society of Professional Journalists. I am a happy member and I'm thankful for the Deadline Club for a few reasons. One is the opportunity to build relationships in the journalism industry, both friendships and mentorships. When I first moved to New York, I was able to join a picnic where I met veteran journalists who have been reporting in New York for 15, 20, 30 years, as well as some younger journalists who were transplants like myself and had to figure out how to navigate this city's specific industry, which helped break the ice for me and made entering the journalism industry in New York a little bit less intimidating. I also am thankful to the Deadline Club for supporting student journalists like myself through fellowships. And I also think that it's a great venue for reading brilliant journalism and kind of getting your work out there. The annual award ceremony is a great opportunity to put your work forward and to potentially earn recognition, as well as to see some brilliant pieces that maybe you didn't see when they first hit the internet or the papers. And so I think it's a rich opportunity for learning from other journalists, sharpening skills through relationships, as well as through reading or listening to or viewing rich pieces of journalism. And I just think that there's something for everyone in the Deadline Club. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in a career in journalism to get involved, see what you can bring to the table, see what interest it sparks for you. I just think that there's rich opportunities within the Deadline Club, and that it opens great doors for collaboration and just thinking about the work that we do and practicing it in new and innovative ways.
Awesome.
Great. So that was straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, talking about the possibilities and the opportunities for the Deadline Club. Janelle was actually one of our scholarship recipients last year. The Deadline Club gives away up to 5 scholarships for undergrad and graduate students. You don't have to be a member to apply, but it certainly shows your commitment to the field. So from there, I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen again. I got a little info deck for you. Most importantly, it's engaging, as in just please speak out, ask questions, throw things out there. You don't even have to throw it in the chat. Just speak up, raise the little digital hand, whatever you want to do. We'll keep this engaging. We care about the growth of SPJ, like really, and specifically from a voluntary perspective. We don't get anything for this. There's no amazing joy or reward at the end of the tunnel, except for the growth of our students, in general. I appreciate always being a part of something bigger than me. And, I view that as journalism is obviously bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us, I think. SPJ is a professional organization that we're able to latch ourselves onto. And I've gotten awards from SPJ. I've given awards through SPJ. I've gotten the ability to get grants, to do events, and, just really inspire other people to do good in journalism. So that's really what it all comes down to, using SPJ as a catalyst for doing something bigger than myself, bigger than, the university in many ways, and to have those two things work hand in hand. The fact that we could, in Hofstra's case, where I teach and also where I went to school, I was able to get the recognition of Hofstra out there nationally because of SPJ. So there's that, sort of hand in hand nature of it. So excited to be here, excited to chat with you guys, and, diving in more to the value and benefits of SPJ. And anybody who is a part of a professional organization would say some of these bullet points, but from our perspective, yes, there's professional development. There's the ability to get advice from pros on everything from writing stories to crafting resumes to networking for internships and jobs. But there's also the ability to stay connected with your local pro chapter. So while we talk about SPJ as this big national organization, and which it is, international in many ways, we have people all over the world, but it's, domestically it's massive. I look at it from the Press Club of Long Island for me, or the Deadline Club for all of New York City. Those are the chapters that really make SPJ what it is. Getting even more granular, the college chapters then make it even more special on their campuses. So the local connections with the members in those pro chapters, the fact that you can almost view the Deadline Club as the major league team to your minor league effort. That's how I kind of look at it. And I think people like Professor Perrin and Colin DeVries, they care about students because they want you guys to be in this environment of growth, in this environment of experiencing new things socially, and professionally with a development perspective. I mean, there's workshops, there's panels. The Deadline Club does tours of different journalism sites. I mean, it's like endless amounts of cool events beyond the awards, beyond the virtual things on Zoom. There's just so much. So And I could say that for the press club. I could say that for SPJ New England. I could say it for SPJ New Jersey. Every chapter in the Northeast is just doing an incredible work because they love this bigger organization. When you become a member of SPJ, which technically, you got to become a member of SPJ to have a college campus chapter, which we're going to get to, but you get a lot of perks and benefits too, things that people don't even really even think of or realize half the time. So we talk about some of these great things. There's a member only rates to the annual convention that we have, which it was supposed to be in New Orleans last year. It rotates between different cities. I can't remember where it is next year. It's in Washington, D.C. next year. It's been in California many times, Florida. But you get discounts on that convention. Plus, you get discounts on entering the Mark of Excellence Awards, which maybe you guys have heard of before, but they're the College Journalism Awards for SPJ. We give out hundreds in the Northeast. In fact, I've oversaw that for the Northeast for the last 5 or 6 years. And we give out thousands across the country. And it's really not an easy award to get, the Mark of Excellence honors. There's discounts at different insurance companies, different hotel companies, on the AP Style Guide. Just simply by sharing your SPJ membership info. And then I think even getting into that professional development swing of thought, you can join different communities online. You can watch a ton of different on-demand training videos, how-to hands-on things about editing and production. And there's access to different directories that you can go and find info to pitch stories to people, find info from editors or other colleagues in journalism to pick their brains, whatever you want, however you want to communicate. All that access becomes there. It's basically like catalogs of info all on the SPJ website once you get into the members section. So lots of benefits of being part of this thing that's bigger than all of us.
Can I add to that, Chris?
Of course, please.
For the membership, it is only for students $37.50 a year. And for some of you, you may be able to get your school to pay for that. From some schools, I know I've talked to a couple of CUNYs who are interested in starting chapters on their school, and they, in their minds, they're thinking of what the cost would be to their school, and they may help support the student membership fee. So that's something to consider too.
And we're saying $37.50, not $3,700 or anything like that. It's not like tuition costs. It's a simple lower rate, by all intents and purposes. The major question of, well, what do we need to do to get a chapter off the ground has become very, very simple in the last year compared to what it was. Everything you're seeing on the screen now is essentially it. Like, I boiled it down to these points, but so SPJ did too. There were many, many meetings over many months with a number of committee people that said, okay, how do we make this? How does it make sense for students and an advisor to do this and not have it be a burden, but have it like, let's just get something off the ground, run with it, and then build from there. So now you essentially need 3 paid members to SPJ. So 3 students that pay that $37.50, and those same 3 students, that's just a minimum, by the way. You don't only need 3. It doesn't have to just be 3. It could be 33 for all, if you had that many. Chris and I sit in committee. Okay. Yes, that's right. We sit in committee meetings on many hours, so you guys don't have to. So we make these things better for you guys. The minimum of 3 members in your student chapter can also be the 3 executive board members. And that happens to not only be what it is like now, but also we realize, maybe you get 5 really dedicated students. They all become e-board members, but they're all the minimum guarantee. That's it. It's like, get these 5 hungry, in this case, 3 hungry, passionate students that really want to leave their mark here. And then that's, the baseline. They have to register on the site. They have to sign up for a student membership. You also need the ability to make sure that you're recognized by your university. So you can actually say, hey, what do we need to do here on campus to become a real chapter? There are different requirements and different protocols at every school. Harvard's different than Hofstra, and Baruch is different than NYU. Sometimes it's through the Student Government Association. Sometimes it's through something else, like the School of Communication or the School of Journalism. What you have to figure out what it is for you guys. So really, the bottom line is communicate with the entity that deals with clubs, just so you can make sure you're doing the right thing. Because sometimes they say, oh, where did this club come from? We don't even know where you are. Like you're just like operating rogue on campus. They'd like to know these things, especially if you're hosting events and if you're using facilities. And, it's just good to be on the same page and communicate. One of the key aspects of being on the same page and communicating and having a liaison with the university is having an advisor who's hopefully, I would imagine, on faculty, somebody that's also into journalism, that cares about this just as we are and as passionate as we are now. And that they can be a voice of reason, somebody to have a professional set of eyes to run things by. But for the sake of the paperwork and the requirements, you need a name and somebody who is obviously into it. And also that communication aspect is important because some universities have a stipend where they pay the advisors X dollars. If that's up to the schools, that's not an SPJ requirement. But if that's a requirement for your campus, you just have to be on the same page about that. And I don't get paid for that at Hofstra, but the School of Communication knows I'm the advisor for that, goes through a specific piece of paperwork, so it's all approved, and then I become the person that communicates with the dean about it, and so on and so forth. So you need 3 student members who could be on the executive board and SPJ paid members. You need a faculty member that hopefully is working in the field of journalism or teaching in communications and journalism. They should also be an SPJ member. And then I'd say the most work that you have to put into getting the chapter off the ground would be a set of bylaws and a constitution. And then you have to present all of that to SPJ National. And I help, for the Northeast, I help make sure that gets in the right person's hands for approval. I also edit everything. I go over it, make sure. I just got one from Emerson that they're trying to get their college chapter off the ground again. I just sent this information actually to somebody from Harvard earlier. Amanda is her name. So Adam from our New England chapter was liaising with her, and we're hopeful of making that happen. It's as simple as almost an email like this that I send. Here's the requirements, and here's an example of the bylaws, and here's an example of the Constitution. Take the example and make it yours. Like, I've made it that much easier. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to go, oh, what am I going to do here? What are the articles in my Constitution, and how am I going to come up with this? No, it's okay. You can use the examples that we have. In fact, in this deck, which we can share the link to, there's resources and there's links in here. And there's this little blue text here, sorry, is the hyperlink for what I'll show you in a second. If I can get back to it. Oh, here we go. I just want to show you like what the actual document is. So here's like a dummy's guide to doing Constitution and bylaws, and you'll get this. This is all for accessibility on the SPJ website, and you can mess around with it, and you can make it yours, and you could edit this. It does not have to be the exact same words or articles or anything. You can change around with it however you'd like, but it's all here under a simple to follow page, which is starting an SPJ campus chapter. Yeah, like you can't get any more easier than that. And again, all the links of these pages are in this deck here. So what else?
Chris,
well,
can you
I'll
give me
pause
advice on how to pick a good, I'm sure there's lots of professors at these colleges that seem really nice, that might be good, but how do they know who to approach? Is it a matter of whoever says yes, or is there something very specific that students should be looking for in an advisor?
Well, you definitely want somebody that's into it, that feels passionate about these journalism experiences, somebody that's just as excited to advise on new classes or advise on events on campus. I think everybody kind of knows who the personalities that are kind of exciting to be around. Those are the people I would gravitate towards. I hate to say it, having worked on campuses for a number of years now, or one campus, but you see a lot of people that get older in age and they're not as excited to do these types of things. So, if you get somebody that's younger and hungry, I think you can latch onto them. It's tough to say. I don't know, the faculty on any other campus except for mine, but I know that there are new chapters that have, in the last year and a half, they've started up an NAHJ chapter, an NABJ chapter. There's a PRSSA chapter. And you know what? They're all, professors that just get it, that want to latch onto something with the students and help sort of cultivate this mentality of we're representing Hofstra or your schools on a different stage. So, I think everyone in your in your boxes here, you kind of have someone in mind, I'm sure, that you're like, yeah, you know what, I respect that person and I think they would be great to go to. But there's a lot of stuff that I threw out on this slide here. So, I'm still gonna pause for any questions about any of this stuff, any of these key ingredients. If you need anything on this, just holler. If not, we could save it till the end, or you could email as well. So
What would be the first step? Would it be this getting, two peers together and starting? Would it be talking to advisor first? I'm assuming the last one is the bylaws and the Constitution. Right?
Yeah, bylaws and Constitution come after you have the personnel and the buy-in and support from faculty or administration. And I would say, yeah, if you can go in order of this, like-minded students come together, approach a faculty member and sell them on how they can help and how they can be involved, and then work with them on the paperwork and documentation. This way, you have the members and the advisor working collectively on the bylaws and Constitution. And then it's a perfect, mixture of everyone's marching in the same direction. And you're not worried about like, oh man, we got these bylaws, but we don't have faculty, or we have a faculty and we don't have any students. Hopefully, if you have a really good faculty advisor, they could help get more students. And of course, they're going to help edit and, craft the bylaws and Constitution too. I have a slide in here more about advisors, don't I? Thought I did. No, I'll talk to it in this bullet point. I mean, the key thing to stress is, like any other advisor, you could be hands-on or not. I would say I'm not hands-on because I trust the leadership of the students that are running it, because I have a million other hats going on too. I don't need to, micromanage this chapter. I'm more involved with Region 1 or the Press Club of Long Island, so that I can use the examples of things that we're doing at a pro level. And the students feed off that too. I'd say, hey, you want to co-brand this event together? You want me to get a speaker for you for this? Are we focusing on anything with ethics for Ethics Week? Are we doing any panels on diversity and inclusion? Like, I just throw those things out there as they're coming into my focus for the pro level stuff, And so we want to make sure that we hit on the key aspects of what SPJ is all about: ethics, diversity, professional development, and boil that down to a student chapter perspective and say, how do we create events on that? So from my advisement perspective, I make sure the students know what the expectations are. I know that, I say early on, now it's actually gotten really aggressive where they're doing almost an event per week, which is amazing. And that's on their own doing. And I support it. And I give them a lot of guidance on ideas for events, which we're going to talk about today, actually. But the expectations from me as an advisor are document everything, be consistent, whether that's one event per month or one event every other week or one event every week, like whatever it is that you get strong enough to do, just be consistent about it. You don't want to be like, yeah, we slacked off in the spring semester, we were busy. No, that doesn't cut it for me as an advisor. And then that really doesn't do you any good, because the whole point of it is to keep people consistently coming back. You'd like to grow your student chapter membership. You'd like to grow your student board leadership, because at some point people graduate. You want to be able to toss the baton, hand the baton off, and make sure that they keep it going. So one of my focuses as an advisor, which you would relay this to your advisors, is, hey, we have leaders that are seniors, juniors, sophomores, and we have like some freshmen coming in that can attend these events, and we inspire them to be involved and stay around. And hopefully this isn't like a one-year thing. It's a 2, 3, 4-year experience where you actually, build this over many, many semesters. The expectations of SPJ is to build out an annual report. This is a documentation. It's very simple. In fact, also there's a template for this on the SPJ website for both pro chapters and student chapters. This just documents everything. Did you do events? Did you do any fundraising? Did you hit those tenets of ethics and diversity and professional development? Did you partner with your local pro chapter? Did you do awards? Did you do goodwill in the community? Whatever it is, all of that goes into the annual report. And that actually is used by SPJ Region 1 leaders, the chapter leaders, and then kicked up to the SPJ regional coordinators for awards. So they give out student chapter of the year in each region. They give out national student chapter of the year awards. And you don't do any of this stuff for awards, but it's nice to be recognized when you crush it and do a great job and are inspiring others and making a difference on your campus. So when you could say, hey, Dean so-and-so, yeah, we got national chapter of the year. We worked really hard. And, it's nice to get a pat on the back every once in a while. If not, well, you still did a great job because there's a ton of work that goes into it. So, but that at a bare minimum, it's like, let's have at least 3 programs in a school year that hit the basics of SPJ, the foundational principles of SPJ. Well, let's put an annual report together and let's keep a funnel of people coming in so that this chapter doesn't die. Because that also happens where if there's an advisor that's very lackadaisical and doesn't really pay attention or care, that's going to kind of trickle down to the students, and they may not be as hungry to do an election, to actually vote in executive board members and to have this thing passed on to, I wouldn't say the next generation, but the next year of students. When people are graduating, you don't want it to end or die. So I spend a lot of time trying to resurrect chapters just as much as start new ones across the Northeast, because there's been a ton that just went to the wayside. In fact, I think I was a member of the Hofstra one as a student, and then after I graduated, it died. And then when I became a professor again in my mid-20s, early 20s, I brought it back. So it was like it was gone for a few years. And then the other piece of this is just, really you have to be, and you're all savvy with social media. You're all young enough where, you have the basics of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the hot Snapchat, whatever the hot platform is for you guys on your campus. You got to promote the heck out of every event. You want to make sure people come. I mean, listen, there's been plenty of events at every campus chapter that has ever done this. There's been an event where there's 3 people or 1 person, and they're like, oh, well, at least we promoted it and we had an event, even if nobody showed up. Like, it just happens. It happens with Hofstra too. It's inevitable. But the more you can get locked into whatever it is, the School of Communication or the School of Journalism, and the PR or social media people who do the accounts for the school or for the specific area of your program, those people can help promote the heck out of whatever you're doing. So the more you can get eyeballs on your marketing flyers, on your social graphics, obviously having a campus chapter social media account helps, maybe an email list, maybe again, latching on to the larger school initiatives that you have, whatever it is, you want to make a big deal about it. You want to make a big deal about that you launched a chapter, that you have an executive board, that you're doing events, that you're hosting elections, that you're, attending national conferences, that you're winning awards. Every moment is something to promote. It's just a matter of getting that word out there. So you got to almost put your PR cap on, or just think of it like social media communications. You could also, what you should do, and when you become a member of SPJ, this is natural, and you'll get the newsletters. You'll get Quill, which is a national magazine, but just sign up for everything. Follow everything. All of the student and pro chapter leaders in the Northeast, I email all the time. I just share events. I'm like, hey, these guys are doing an amazing thing up in New England. Here's a Zoom link. Oh, did you see what New Jersey did this week? Here's a Zoom link. Here's the YouTube link. I share it all the time. So you can really piggyback and learn a lot, and you can steal those ideas. You could do that panel on your campus. You could take something from the pro level and make it yours at the collegiate level. It's very much not a game of, oh, I can't believe they took our idea. It's cool. You did that idea too. Awesome. I hope you got more people than we did on campus at this thing, because it was really helpful. Everything is about helping each other. And, that's one of the things I didn't see in the last few years, that sharing between chapters, but I see it a lot now in the last 18 months. That's been one of my missions since taking over as the regional coordinator. Is I don't even have to do anything with national. I don't have to talk to anybody from SBJ HQ, as long as I feel like that the pro and student chapter leaders are being communicated with. That's the most important thing for me. And communication for me is look at what they did, go to it, make it yours, and make people inspired or help them out however you can. And I think it's working. So, and the other piece is too, it can't be said enough to stay in touch with the local pro chapter. So in this case, it seems like most New York City schools are on this, and Harvard. So it's, Deadline Club and SPJ New England. And it's good to stay in touch with those chapter leaders, because you can have them promote your events, especially things that are on Zoom. Maybe it's a little tricky if people are coming to your campus and you don't want to deal with that, infusion of strangers or Depending upon what mask and vaccination policies exist, that gets a little hairy. But Zoom events should be open to everybody. Jack it up, get 100 people. Who cares if someone's coming to your Zoom from Boston or Long Island, whatever. So you want to let the pro chapter leaders know that you exist, that you're excited to be a part of their region, and share ideas. So did you want to pause with the idea of the breakout groups and talk about that?
Why don't you go through this slide first, and then we can do the breakout groups after that.
Yeah, no problem. So
just to get the wheels turning.
Yeah. I started to throw some ideas out there before randomly when I was trying to hit on some of my key points. And, once you have a chapter and once you have your constitution and bylaws in full approval, which by the way that could take a semester's length of time to put together. You could also do it in a week, but people are busy with a million things. So nobody expects everybody to do that instantly. But you can get your chapter up in a semester's length of time. And then you go, okay, well, we have a chapter, which really then boils down to you need to do events. That's really what this all comes down to. At the press club, at the deadline club, it's like, what are we doing this month? What are we doing for our members? What are we doing to feel good about advocating for journalists and journalism and growing together? So you have to sit there, and I always recommend to our student leaders of map this thing out, get a calendar. What are you doing? Again, is it every week or every other week? You think of it like that, or every month when you're getting something off the ground. And you say, okay, look at it from the fall and the spring semesters. You got September, October, November, pretty much. I mean, December is just completely way too quick with the holiday right there. And, basically only a couple of weeks of class. So it's almost like December is a dead month. And then January, everyone's basically off. So that doesn't help. And then you got something for February, March, April, and maybe May, but same deal. It's like December, it goes so fast. So you say, okay, can I get 6, 7, maybe 8 events in for the year and just pencil them in? What are they going to be? Yes, there's a ton of things that I've thrown out there, like panels. You can have a panel on anything. You can have a panel on SPJ. You can have the SPJ president just came to a Hofstra event that we hosted, and that was a panel on ethics specifically. So not only did we introduce Rebecca, the new president, to our campus, and our dean was on there, and a number of student leaders, and even some pros from Long Island popped on, but we also talked about ethics for an hour and a half. And it was great discussion about sourcing and social media and access and misinformation. And, we could have talked for 15 hours, but we talked for, an hour and a half. And so we turned that out to be a panel. And so you can do that with anything. There's a million panels already on your campuses, but you can actually make them yours and, sponsor them with your chapter. Q&As with local pros, especially if you have, again, the deadline club exists. There's an executive board at the deadline club. Maybe they can be a panel on themselves. Maybe they can all help out and do a Zoom, and so on. We've also seen the simple, how to get a job, headshot events where people actually go and they get a photographer there and they get a headshot as a parting item, because there's a lot of people that want headshots that go into broadcast journalism. There's resume editing workshops, cover letter workshops, LinkedIn workshops to make sure that your LinkedIn page is up and running. Hopefully you have a LinkedIn page. I just got done talking to one of my cousins and was like, how are you going into journalism and don't have a LinkedIn page? You got to figure this out right now. And so those are things to keep in mind. Did an alumni that became successful in journalism. Maybe it's recent alumni panel. I see that every so often. Maybe it's a more successful alumni that's more difficult to get, but you can nail that down as well. And then there's I love seeing this because it's not so direct to journalism, but you could do a fundraiser. Pick a charity. It could be something with breast cancer awareness in October. It could be something with a totally different element of March of Dimes, St. Baldrick's. There's just, there's a million fundraisers, but they're all goodwill. And you guys can do that and make your donations to them. But that's you guys coming together as a group to do that. I also love diving even deeper to the next level and talking to high school journalists. Can you contact the local high schools in your area and say, hey, the student chapter at our school wants to go and talk to high school journalists. And that becomes a recruiting effort for your university to inspire those kids to come to your school, let alone become SPJ members one day, because you're talking to them about journalism in your perspective. What's it like to be an editor at the school paper, or to be on-air personality at the student TV or radio station. They don't necessarily know what that means. So you can go and do that too. You can go off your campus and do events. And then I've seen a lot of fun things too. You know, I've seen trivia night, I've seen movie night, I've seen picnics, I've seen concerts. You know, there's a ton. So there's no end in sight. And again, you'll always say, you know, there's so many events on campus. What's another one? What's another? Who cares? Have an event every single day. Have an event once a week. Whatever you want to do, you're the one that's going to lead it. You're the guys that are passionate about this to be on this call. Just map it out. Have an organizational structure. Figure out when it's going to happen. Buy yourself enough time to plan it so that you're not stressed to not be able to market it enough so that people come. And that's it. You know, and that's not every event, which is what we were talking about when we started this slide. We're gonna pause for a second here, and she'll explain more of what we could do to be more creative. But there is an endless amount of events. We just did this one on ethics. I'm doing one on sports, media, culture, and society at Hofstra. The 2 days later, I'm hosting a panel of Long Island Journalism Hall of Famers who are going to talk about their careers and, you know, hopefully inspire people to be great. Like, it's just, you know, I just came up with those ones because I like to do these things on campus because it's great, but I can come up with another 50 if I needed to. I don't have time for that, but I could. So.
Well, to help you come up with those 50, we're actually going to go into breakout rooms right now. Probably have 2 rooms. We'll spend, you know, 5 or 7 minutes. And I want you all in your rooms to come up with a list of ideas. And if your idea is a panel, think about what type of panel would that be? If your idea is a trivia night, what's the theme? If it's a movie night, what's the theme, right? So kind of be more specific. And these are ideas that when you then go to start your chapter, you can come into your chapter meetings with these ideas. So this is kind of a brainstorming in to get the ball rolling. So we'll have about, you know, 5 or 7 minutes on that. I'll break you up into random rooms now. Make sure to introduce yourselves to each other, and then you can start from there. Emmanuel, which school are you at?
I'm at Brew College.
Okay, so you work with Amanda.
Yes, yeah.
Great. Glad you could make it. And Allison, did you see my note about Eileen Markey at Lehman?
Oh, that would be me. I'm one of her students.
Oh, great. Yeah. She's really excited about the chapter. So she was the advisor before, and I know she's on leave right now, but she'd be great to have as the advisor again. Great. How'd that go?
It's really helpful to not only introduce each other, but to also get to know about one's perspective about journalism and how it could be helpful to certain communities.
Great. What were some of your ideas that I think you guys were in room 2? What's some ideas that you had for your possible events?
So one idea that we had was to have a panel of sort of like a national newspaper versus a local newspaper and the differences of working for either one.
Right, this idea of being a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond, right? Yeah, great. Oh, the other group, anything from your takeouts that you want to share?
We thought about an FOI event. It was part of the slides, and I thought that was really interesting. And I just thought it was interesting because you get so much information and a story out of an FOI. And as we were talking, even Amanda, who I was in the group with, she had no idea what an FOI was. So I think it's just important for journalists to really know what they are, because you can get so much information and so much credibility for your story when you know what it is and when you know how to effectively submit a form.
Especially on the undergraduate level, I think there's not enough time to teach a lot about FOIA. And so that's really becomes a hard thing to squeeze into a normal curriculum. So I think learning more about that. And I know the Deadline Club chapter, actually, I think it's a requirement, right? Chris, every chapter has to do one FOIA event each year or one First Amendment event.
Yeah, First Amendment, you know, a lot of people even associate that with ethics, just kind of run with it that way. But I really like the idea of have a freedom of information, have an ethics/media law, have a diversity and inclusion, and break it all up. And if you do that, then you're not only you're hitting the buckets that are going to help people, but you're also adhering to the SPJ foundational principles.
I mean, having college students talk about their own ethical journalism experiences, I think would be amazing and focus on that. I know at the Deadline Club, probably 3 or 4 years ago, we did a First Amendment event with high school journalists, and we had them talk about the censorship issues they've faced in schools and some of the larger issues of the New Voices legislation and things like that. But it was an event, I mean, it was a book launch too, but it was tied really focusing on high school journalists, but we kind of fulfilled our requirement for that First Amendment event. And that was a great way to kind of check a lot of boxes.
Yeah, the other piece is, like you were saying, sometimes when you're teaching class, you don't have the time in the semester to get the requests back. So you could even go over, hey, how do we fill it out? Right. But you may not have a success or a failure in the duration of that. By the time you get to the end of the semester, you're like, oh, I'm still waiting for it. What's the point of that? But if you do it as a workshop, it's a one-off thing. I was saying, we were talking with Hugh and Amanda about having investigative reporters talk about their experiences. And yes, it could be very hands-on about, hey, this is literally how I found the FOIL, the paperwork. This is what I filled out. Here's the appeal process, because you're denied in a lot of cases. And then that turns into a whole discussion about rights for journalists. You don't realize like what the actual law says that you're supposed to get, and how often people break that law from municipalities. At the press club, we wound up doing a FOIL report card. We sent FOIL requests to every municipality on Long Island. And it was like a 6 to 8 month project, and we graded them based on a specific rubric on who sent stuff back, who met the appeals, who ignored us. And then we got policy changes from some government leaders based on what we brought to the table. Like, hey, you guys failed this. You guys totally ignored us. And then some of them were embarrassed, like, oh my God, I can't believe like our secretaries or so-and-so did this. And so that felt so good that we were able to put this teamwork together and use it as an example that made change for journalists. I mean, that's a whole big time project done by people that are investigative reporters that were on our board. So I'm not expecting that from a student chapter, but that's the level of detail that we go into that helps the greater good of journalism, which is very cool.
But how amazing would it be, even like in terms of like your student editor legacy, even if this is your senior, that you start the FOIA request, and then you graduate, it eventually comes through, and then the next generation of reporters at your student paper can take that forward. So, I mean, I think there's, even though there's some of these terms that we have at our student papers are smaller, there's always a generation there working on the publication, right? So that's an amazing amount of like information that you could pass down to them, and doing something similar with every department on campus who responds and who doesn't to certain questions might be interesting too.
By the way, you make a great point. Talk about legacy, talk about the additional layer of leadership. Again, everybody on this call is taking an initiative because you guys are interested in kickstarting, jumpstarting what you can on your campus. To say that you were the first president of the SPJ campus chapter on your school definitely means something. Yes, you could be the 50th president too. Like I was like the 40th president of the press club, which means just as much to me. But honestly, if I had started the press club in 1974, like Carl Grossman did, forever, that guy is the founder of the press club. He's still around, still kicking. He's a Long Island Journalism Hall of Famer. Who knows what your legacy is on your campuses for starting something from scratch. It's just another layer. It's your resume item. It's on your LinkedIn page. You could talk, hey, you're talking to a job interview. Hey, what'd you do on campus besides the school paper here? Well, I started the SPJ chapter. We had events on ethics and freedom of information. What did you do when you were in school? Like you don't have to be so direct, but you know what I mean? That's probably
like the idea of challenging your interviewer.
Yeah, probably how I would.
You want to be in 5 years in your chair, buddy.
I can answer that if anybody asks me. Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left. I don't want to go over time. So was there anything else you wanted to cover, Chris, and then people feel free to ask questions in the chat, or you've seen me interrupting Chris all night, so he doesn't mind if you do it too.
No, yeah, please. I mean, of course, I only had a couple more slides left.
Okay.
This one's important too, because once you establish the chapter, there are frequent times throughout the year where SPJ says, hey, apply for grants. It may be $500, it may be $1,000. It's really based on the budget that you need. In your case, most likely for an event, is it, hey, we want to have an event where we bring in some pro chapter leaders and some journalists, some investigative people. We got to buy pizza. We got to buy drinks. We got to buy napkins. Like that shouldn't come out of your pocket. And you're not going to have some windfall of cash in a budget from the school, from your college or university. So the idea of you getting grants from SPJ or from the Region 1 leadership, from me actually, and Bill Blyer, our treasurer, that's a real thing. So consider this down the line after you get your chapter started. There's also some questions here. I want to make sure we answer these. So I'm a senior at Baruch and graduating in May of next year. Would I still be able to help start? Yes, right now is the time to do this. If you're in the boat of wanting to start something, you shouldn't need a full academic year to get it off the ground. If you can be really aggressive and do the Constitution, the bylaws, find your executive board and your advisor between now and say February, then I can guarantee that we will get it off the ground in the spring semester. If you get me everything now, we'll definitely be up and running by the start of the spring semester. But the more you wait, the longer it takes, because it has to go to the SPJ National Board for approval. So they usually do that when they have like national board meetings, which is only one time a month. So then, it's like, get that stuff in before the holidays if you can, and then you're set for the spring. If it goes into the spring semester and you're like, it's February, I have most of my stuff, what do we do? We could still get it passed, so we could still get it off the ground. The key though is to get some underclassmen that can make sure that they're immediately taking over. Otherwise it's just going to die and it'll be a waste of your efforts.
And listen, Amanda and Manuela, you both are at the same school, so you only need one more student to join you. I know Professor Haller would probably not be the right person for your advisor, but she would be a right person to help you find an advisor. So you have, your team is set there. At Lehman, Professor Markey has been, I know she's on leave right now, but she is really supportive of this. Professor McKenna would be too. So you have a place to start there. So those are, and I'm sorry, Hugh, I don't know any professors at Harvard I can direct you to, but starting with that and starting with one other, before you file your paperwork, you don't really need the 3 students. I think if there's one other student and you approach and advise someone to be your advisor, then you can start on your bylaws. And from there, I'll work on finding their 3rd member. So some of these things can happen, and then I don't know when the next board meeting is for them to vote on this, but I would give yourself a deadline. Can you get your team together by the end of this semester and get your paperwork in? That would be my challenge to you. And we can help you. Chris can help you. I can help you. I'll put the contact information again. But we can help you get this. This is part of our personal mission, is to help create more chapters. So we want to make sure you succeed. So we can help you do that.
Yeah. So what other questions you guys have? Anything?
So then, since I'm graduating, and I know Allison said she is as well, would there be a way, if we do end up starting a chapter at our respective schools this year, is there a way that we could still be involved somehow next year, or once we graduate, that's kind of it?
Once you graduate, you're considered a pro. So you would wind up really just getting into, if you're from New York City, then you would just get involved with the Deadline Club. Or if you're from wherever you're from, anywhere in the Northeast, well, I don't know if you're from the Northeast. Where are you from? Are you from the city or somewhere else?
I'm from Brooklyn, so the city.
So Deadline Club is your chapter. So you're not going to want to go back to campus. You're going to want to hook up with, Katina and Colin DeVries and attend all the pro events. And hopefully you're working full time and, it makes all the sense in the world. But
you can be part of the student committees. Every chapter has a student relations liaison or a whole committee, and you can be part of that committee. And then that way you can help support your college chapter too.
Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of how much you want to be involved, because that's what it comes down to. So yeah, if you want to do stuff with colleges, cool. There's not enough people doing it, honestly. So what else? Any other questions, thoughts, comments? I put my email in the chat as well. I could send you the examples of the Constitution and bylaws. I helped get the Stony Brook chapter. Stony Brook's where I got my master's degree. I got their chapter resurrected in the last year, probably in the last 6 months. and I took their constitution and bylaws and checklist, and I've been sharing it with anybody who asks because you could use it. So I have that as a great example of something that was passed by SPJ National, and then we made it happen. So, that's what I shared with Emerson. I think I sent that to Amanda from Harvard. So, if you want that, my email address is here. Shoot me a line. Anything that pops up, hey, can you check this out? Can you send this to National? What else do we need to do? What am I missing? Ask. We're just an email away. It's very simple.
Yeah. And we'll probably follow up with you too to find out, to kind of stay on your case. So, because I know some of these things can get, bottom of the to-do list. So, but we'll be around to help support you and to remind you and to see how we can move you forward on this. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know you're all very busy. Thank you, Chris, for that great presentation and for being so open with your email and sharing that with all of us. We're all around for questions. So again, feel free to ask. We really want to help you start your chapters. And I'm really excited about you being interested in journalism and being interested in SPJ and the Deadline Club, all of that good stuff. So you're in the right direction just by joining this meeting and just by being here and asking the questions that you're asking. So thank you for that. And let us know how we can help you.